Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about our trimmer, our electric trimmer that we're building. If you were here long enough and subscribed to the channel long enough to see our first version of the trimmer last year, it was a giant box and it was held up with a broom handle and everything. It was crazy huge, but it did work and it was a stepping stone in the right direction. And then we started working on the lawnmower project, and we've come into kind of a problem here where it drives on the cement, but it doesn't quite drive in the grass. So we're testing out some new motors. I went ahead and bought a Falcon 500, and now we're making a trimmer. That way I can test the motor, test the spinning and everything, and also have something that actually will work for once. Like any good engineer, I started out with a drawing in my engineering notebook. I went through and kind of sketched out what I wanted it to look like, and I put it into trimmer mode and eventually edger mode. I actually want this to be an edger. We have one of those really loud like metal grinding things, and it's just super loud and super annoying. So I want to be able to do it where you trim the grass and also you can edge it and make it all beautiful in one go. So I started out by crimping and soldering the wires. We crimped the wires on the Falcon, on some other like connecting wires, put some of the power pole connectors on there, put some Anderson housings on there, and boom, connected it all up together and turned on the power. Thankfully nothing exploded, it was amazing, and the Falcon powered up and it had little orange lights, which was very nice. So the next thing we had to do after we tested all of our electronics, made sure they worked, was to actually go through and CAD the bottom housing where the Falcon would sit and all of the electronics. And so we did that, we CAD it up in Onshape, and then we put it on a 3D printer, and whenever it was done, I took it over to our studio, put all of the things in there, and made sure all the wires would fit, and thankfully they did. After we tested out to make sure everything would fit, we went through and we CAD'd up the top part of the housing and also a thing called the rotator that connects the actual housing of the trimmer to a giant pole that I actually hold on to, that way I can actually use the trimmer. And then there was one thing I didn't take into account. It was the fasteners. I didn't actually put in the CAD the bolts and nuts that would be connecting everything together. So the rotator, the walls are a little bit too close to the holes. So whenever I try and tighten it down, instead of going perfectly straight down, they go in at like an angle. They still work. It's just enough to where I can actually tighten it. However, it doesn't work for all 4 holes, and I have to go through and re-CAD it up again for the next version. But with all of our trimmer housing basically completed, we needed a way to mount the pole to the actual trimmer. So I went through, and I don't have a V-block sadly, so I took my drill and I just eyeballed it, went across the diameter, and thankfully it worked first try. The bolt slides in, it actually threads into the wood, which is super nice. I don't even need to have a nut on the other side, although we will eventually. But we did it perfectly, it fits, it's amazing. Now it's time for the part that I really am not a huge fan of, the programming. I am definitely more mechanical and video-sided in life. Programming is not exactly my expertise. Thankfully, we've had a lot of practice with the first version of the trimmer and also some of the lawnmower stuff. So all we had to do was take our code from that and change the words Victor into talons and change some of the speed variables, and we were all set. We did a couple tests inside the house just by revving up the motor and make sure that it would spin properly, and then it was time to take it outside. At first we used the plastic blades that come with the trimmer. However, when we were putting it up against the bricks, we accidentally kind of started shaving them down and everything, and it also wasn't really doing a very clean cut. So I ran inside, grabbed the string that came with the Ryobi trimmer head, and I put it on there. We went up against the bricks and it did really, really good. There is one problem though. It does seem to kind of push the grass over instead of actually slicing through it and cutting it. So we need to work on that. And then throughout our testing, I kept hearing these little cracks. And I was like, oh, that's not very good. And eventually when we got finished testing, kind of halfway around the house, I noticed that the rotator on one side was cracked and it was actually coming off from the bolt. So the next day I went through and re-CAD'd up a new rotator, this time moving the walls in, that way they would kind of touch against the pole instead of being further out. And it works great. I also increased the quality from the fast print to a normal quality print, that way it would be a little bit better, and I also increased the infill in our PLA, which is pretty good. So now that that works, we actually were able to take it outside and test it, and we did some more testing with it, and we ended up switching to a plastic line that we use for our gas trimmer instead of this it looks like a rope kind of string, and that seemed to do a little bit better whenever it was cutting with just that small change, so I'm super excited to make more changes in the future. And speaking of things I want to improve, I really want to make the motor spin faster, that way it has more power to actually slice through the grass. I want to be able to cut the pole shorter. Right now it's like 7 feet, and it's kind of weird having it hold up like way behind you and everything. I want to make a handle, that way it's easier to hold, make a better way to move the joysticks, make a battery mount, and most importantly make a guard, and also make a way for us to do edging. We need to put like a wheel on there and make it so that it can lock and everything. That way we can go through, trim the grass, and then go and edge between the sidewalk and the grass and make our yard look super awesome. So, thank you guys very much for watching this video about our trimmer. If you really enjoyed it, consider hitting the like button, and if you want to follow more of the story and the progress of the trimmer, consider subscribing. It'd be super awesome of you. And if you have any other features you'd like me to add to the trimmer, leave them in the comment section down below. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Have a fantastic day.